you were truly my first sales manager I ever had in my professional career. So there's a lot of stories that we're gonna come back to on how you affected our futures. But I just wanted to say thank you for joining us. Also here with Tim Garner, Sales Docket. We are ready to go. So Steve Kaplan, first question, right?
Yeah.
Like, tell us where you are. Tell us how you got there. Tell us, give us a little story of how you got into. I mean, we met at Knight Rider back in, I was in 95. I think Tim was 94, 95 for you.
Yeah, 95. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
both in 95. How'd you get into the legal space back then? Tell us a little bit about your journey, where you are today, and then we'll dive into the fun part where we get to try to embarrass you a little bit, maybe.
and we'll definitely apologize up front because you were my first sales manager too in this industry. So I know you had your hands full with both me and Rapp.
Got it.
There's a lot of things I remember. I hope we get to a few of them. I don't know if you guys will want me to remember as much as I did.
I have
sure
a
we
few
don't.
things.
Yeah, so my first 8 years in sales right out of college was selling copiers. So I was in downtown Manhattan. I was City Hall and Wall Street area. And that is just bootleg sales. That was literally every day going into a big office building, knocking on 50 to 100 doors, just walking in each one, trying to find if you can just meet somebody who might be in the market for office equipment. Was there for 8 years. I was a sales manager for my last 4 years there. Then was looking for something new, and I got a call from a recruiter. There was a big recruiting company out of Houston that Knight Rider always used to use, and called me up, sounded interesting, and they were opening up their first New York office, and had my interview with them, flew me out to Houston, and that's how I got to Knight Rider, which was my first envoy into the legal industry. And at Knight Rider, got acquired by Icon, worked my way up, had a few different promotions, ended there on the legal side as a regional vice president. And obviously those guys were mostly copiers back then, which is why they bought us over at Knight Rider, and was a market president for New Jersey for a few years. And then from there, I ended up going to, I had a couple of little stops, short stops there, but I was there for about 8 years, then went over to TransPerfect, who hired me to help start with Kyle Osborne, a legal group. And when Kyle and I were there, it was just Kyle, myself, and one document specialist. And what they've done is just amazing. But I stayed with TransPerfect for about 7 years. And then I'm over now almost for 15 years with Great America Financial Services. So it's still within the copying world, because what I do now is I work with the office equipment dealers, the people that sell the equipment, and we offer financing solutions for their customers and a lot of value add services for the actual copier dealers.
I love it.
There we go.
I love it. I do love that. I mean, you were clearly you had a big impact on us, Steve, right? I mean, clearly from a sales perspective. So we're going to give you this opportunity to tell two good stories about myself and Mr. Garner, and then we'll tell kind of our moments, like the pivot moments that we had with you, because there's definitely one in mind that I remember so clearly. I know Tim Garner has one also, but let's start with you. What is it when you look at the two of us, and again, the premise of this is kind of for the next generation to get some sales gems, like what can they hold on to and what can they learn from? And you can start with Garner.
Well, hold on.
You can start with Timmy.
I'm starting with you.
I knew you would.
The good thing about this is that, and I'm going to say this: if anybody has a bag of gems, it is Steve Kaplan. I have stuff that I still remember from you that you taught me and told me, and it's funny, even as I'm going back to when he did that, it was just interesting how you just used to make us feel part of the decision making, make us feel like we were a team, and things of that nature that I think it made me want to work for you. right? So, and I remember some of the things that you used to say, as far as, you can complain to me about anything, but don't complain, in a sales meeting, right? Come to my office, let's have the conversation, and then we can figure something out. And then one of the other ones, and I don't want to get off topic, but the one that I remember the most was that you would say, if you have a complaint, come with a solution.
Mm.
You remember saying that?
Yeah, because somebody said that to me.
Okay,
because
so
I was complaining a lot.
I'm sorry, I just had to.
Yeah. So I just want I've watched some of these, of the sales docket, and what I've noticed is what happens is just what happened here. You ask a question, then you two go off on a tangent, and it's like,
of course, that's why we're doing this together.
Yeah. So my first memory of Steve was.
I
know what you're gonna say.
Do you?
Maybe.
Write it down so you can hold it up later. But my first memory of Steve was he was so tenacious, and it started on the interview process. And back then we were offering 22.
Negotiating the contract.
we offered him the standard CSR $22,000, and he kept badgering me. I need 25. I need 25. I need 25. I'm like, dude, look, everyone gets 22. It's 22. There's nothing we're going to do. And you and I were on the phone on a Saturday, and I was dating Sharon, who I'm married to. And I'm on the phone.
Love Sharon.
Yeah. And I'm just like, I'm rolling my eyes. I'm like, oh my God. And this son of a bitch wore me down because I just wanted to get on my weekend with Sharon because we were still dating. And we agreed to 23.5. And I remember I hung up the phone. I go, that son of a bitch. I go, he wore me down. I go, he's going to be freaking so good. I go, he doesn't know I got the better of the deal. And seriously, that's what I remember about you, Steve. You were, and I'm sure, and still are, the word I would use is you're tenacious, but you can do things in a way. And again, certain things, and I'm going to talk about Tim also. There's certain things the two of you are able to do that I don't think you can really teach. It's just almost, it's innate. I mean, you can work to learn about things. I mean, a good sales rep will try to learn how to become a certain way. But the two of you have some unique strengths that are just natural. And for you, yours is your ability to be tenacious and your ability to have people like you, and the enthusiasm that you always bring to what you're doing. It's contagious. And I think that's a big reason why people gravitate. And when I say people, clients gravitated toward you and wanted to do business with you. And again, it's not something, there could be maybe 2 or 3 people I can think of that I worked with that are like that. And, and I remember also, you would have so many questions. And with you, the thing that I remember was, I'm like, you were always looking, you wanted to get a little validation. And I'd be like, I know he knows the answer. And so I used to have you specifically, like, if you're going to come in my office and ask me a question, you need to have 1 or 2 answers for me that I'm going to consider. And you used to walk in, you'd knock, and you go, Cappy. And then you'd be like, never mind. And then you turn around and you walk away. But it was good. But I knew you knew. And that was my way to show you that you knew and you should trust yourself. Because again, more often than not, your instincts were so spot on.
Interesting.
Yeah. And and for you, Tim, you're one of 2 people that I can think of that I've been on calls with where you can disarm someone real quickly. And you're one of the people who, if you're with you for about 5-10 minutes, I think most people feel like they know you at that point for 5-10 years. And it's the same thing. It's just, you're always, you're big, you're warm, you're smiling, you're very disarming. You're 6'2", 6'3". When we were working together, you were built like a linebacker, and literally, like a middle linebacker. And you just walk in. But you could walk in and you could just make people feel real at ease. And again, the thing that you both did was you showed people you really cared and that you knew what you were doing for them was important and you weren't going to let them down. And that came across sincere. And I think that's probably the biggest things that you guys had going for you and why you were so successful. And I'm sure it's not any different today.
That's interesting. I mean, and that's,
that's interesting because I really don't give a crap about anybody. And
no. And Tim and I have talked about, honestly, we have talked about, like, I remember going out with Tim on his first sales call and just his charm and exactly what you said. I was just like, holy crap. Like, if he could do that, I think I could do that too. I mean, it was one of those, like, I got this. Kaplan, that's amazing. So just staying on this point, forget the two of us right now. Like, if you're looking at a sales rep, like what was some of the key things in your interview process besides kind of what you just spoke about that's specific for Tim and I, but was there something, did they have to be an athlete? What was it when you were interviewing people that kind of really, as a manager, when you looked at them and said, wow, this guy's going to be potentially a very good salesperson? Like, what are the attributes that someone who's looking for? Yep.
And let me just add on, because Steve, you're not much older than us. You were a young manager at the time. And I remember, like, out of all the people that were management, I'm like, I'm going to Kaplan. Like either Kaplan's going to give me an answer, or he's going to make me think about something, or he's going to point me in a direction where, and you were very young. I mean, are you 4 years older than me, maybe 3 years? So
Tim and I are 4 years to the day. We've got the same birthday.
Yeah, that's right. Same.
Wow.
Yeah, same birthday. So yeah, to add on to Steve's question about, what were you looking for, but along those lines, you were young, man. So where did that come from too? Because you had the goods.
Yeah, wisdom.
What I'd like to know, do the people who watch this, do they send you feedback and stuff? Because I just want to know if they think like you were actually 4 years older than me when they're watching this.
Not at all.
No.
Some people do.
You got good skin.
He's hiding all the gray, Steve.
Yeah. So here's the deal. What I was looking for was someone who had energy. And I would ask people, and they had to have a good answer, like, why do you want to do, what made you interested in this opportunity? What other opportunities were you looking at? And to see if, first of all, if they really understood sales and if they really wanted to be in sales. Because again, sometimes people like I did, came out of school, I had a business degree. What does that mean? Right. It isn't like I'm coming out with a legal degree and okay, I'm going to be a lawyer and maybe I just have to pick, what area of law I want to practice. Who the hell knew what we all, right? Did either of you really know what you wanted to do?
No, I think most people in our space had no idea, how they got into what we're doing right now. So
Steve left Maryland not knowing what he's like, the party's over, now what? He's like, yeah, that's pretty much true. So that would be one thing that I'm looking for. Behavioral interview questions really did help. And identifying the right, questions to that, to see someone's work ethic, things that they've had, challenges that they've had to overcome, how they've dealt with setbacks, because sales is all about setbacks. I mean, all of us, even the best sales reps, we're losing more than we win. And it's real hard. The thing though that made hiring a lot easier was you guys. So we would make sure we always did field rides. And I valued the input that the team, because you guys looked at things from a different perspective and that person was talking to you differently than they're going to talk to me. And we would send someone on a field ride with usually like two different people. So the feedback that I got from the reps, plus what I did would help me be able to form a good judgment and opinion on a person. But here's the one thing I will tell you that I didn't develop until years later, even after I met you guys. I took on a mentality from a sales management standpoint of, I am not going to offer someone a job unless when I hand them the offer letter, I had to make believe that they went, hey, dude, really appreciate the offer, but I think I'm going to pass. And if in my head, if I wasn't saying, slamming the desk and yelling an F-bomb, that told me I was not passionate about that person. I didn't care. I was just looking to fill a spot. And
Mm.
that's one of the worst things I think a sales leader can do, or any manager can do, is look to just fill a spot.
Yeah.
And then conversely, what I started doing is when I had that letter, I would go to the applicant and say, look, I've got an offer letter for you here. Here it is. I said, but before you take it out of my hand, I said, if you were not thinking, because usually it was about a third or a fourth visit. If you were not thinking, if this son of a gun doesn't offer me this job, I'm going to be so depressed. I said, don't take the letter. I go, that tells me you're not passionate. It isn't like you really want to be here. You're just looking to get a job, but you're not looking for what we have here in a career and everything else.
Yeah.
And the last part that I did also with the hiring was I made sure to always tell everybody the good, the bad, and the ugly. Because when I started at Knight Rider, there were 6 of us in the beginning. And then we added a couple of folks. They never told us we were going to have to work all day Saturday and all day Sunday because we don't have a weekend CSR. So like you literally worked, he had us coming in at what, 7:30 in the morning. You don't leave until 6 at night. And then, oh, by the way, you have to work from 8 to 11 on Saturday. And then you have to work from 8 to 10 on Sunday. And then you also had to do a nighttime rotation. And I'm like, dude, this was not in the interview. This was. So I made sure to always tell everybody everything about that. But that was key. So the key things would be using your resources around you, getting feedback from other people would be real important for me.
I love that.
Yeah, there's well, so you mentioned the field ride that, and our story that pretty much saved my career at Knight Rider, and I've shared it before. I think I even shared it in our first docket that it Knight Rider and Icon was great for the training, but there comes a time where certain management just doesn't mix. And I remember we had to remember all those sales cards, and we had to remember our sales spiel. And I memorized all the cards, no problem, had my sales spiel, but I couldn't do it the way this one manager wanted me to do it. And I was going to leave. And I remember we went to go for a walk at Squadron Elenoff. I was delivering boxes, and I told you, I don't know. And you were like, go ahead.
It was a Friday night. It was like Friday night. You were the nighttime CSR. I remember it well. And I had nowhere to go, nothing to do. And I think we may have been down at nighttime where it was just really busy. So we hung out. I was with you from probably 7 to 10 that evening.
And I wound up going on this call, and I told Steve, I don't know if I can do it. And he's like, just give me your call. And what you said to me just changed. I remember coming to work the next day like, I can do this shit. You're like, dude, that's one of the best calls I've heard. It's awesome. I love this. I love that. And I don't know if you realized it, but it gave me so much confidence. Not that I was lacking confidence. I just didn't understand how this one person didn't want me to be myself. And that was the one thing that you told me, be yourself, dude. This is great. You're going to kill it. And then you even would use me for role plays and stuff like that. And then I realized how you brought me into a fold that I became an advocate for you, right? I was like, if someone said something about Kaplan, I'm like, shut your mouth. So, and I think that's unique about you and how you include people as a manager and even as a young manager to get us moving in a direction, because we had an awesome team. So thank you for that.
Yeah. And management, again, I think Kaplan's, secret weapon is you knew how to push up buttons so well. It's really, and I'll go to my pivot moment was Kaplan was, I think I broke 100,000 in a given month. And I was all full of my shit. I was probably rubbing it in Garner's face that I beat him. And you can't.
I was probably at 200 anyway, so it didn't.
Whatever. You came into my office. You looked me dead in the face as serious as possible. And you're like, Steve, unbelievable month. But you just set the ceiling here. And you can't go below that ceiling anymore. And I'm like, what? I was like, really? I was so proud of myself. And then you walked out of my office. And I'm like,
yeah,
great button push, because he was right. I would have been content here, but you pushed me to this level. So, I mean, there's not a lot of managers, I think Tim and I have spoken about this, who have that uncanny ability to to make it part of the decision, to think a little bit more for yourself, all of the factors that you've done. So we thank you for that.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. But you know, I and I had been managing before I got to you guys. And again, just young, it shouldn't have been managing. You know, so you didn't see like when, okay, he really doesn't know his ass from his elbow.
Right. We saw that a couple of times.
Yeah. But here was my aha moment for sales management. It was when I realized I shouldn't be managing a team. It was these men and women, they're my customers. When I started thinking as of the sales rep as my customer,
that's interesting.
That's when it changed. And so when you're thinking of someone as your customer, you don't tell your customer what to do or just, bark at them. And each customer, right? If like Tim, if you were in Voice, you had God knows how many people working with you, but they were all different personalities. They all had their own. And what did you do? You changed, and you made sure that you never lost your true essence. But you made sure, like, okay, this guy doesn't like to joke around. I need to be this way. For this person, I need to be that way. And then one of the things that I also did with all you guys was I asked you, like, dude, you want to make some money. Like, what are we doing it for? And I remember Steve was like, well, I want to be able to get a house. I want to be able to take several trips back to Israel. There's a lot of things. I'm like, okay, so let's think about that. So that's always in your mind for why you're doing what you're doing. But you get to learn about everyone. And when I became a regional vice president, I remember I had a sales meeting, and it was all the sales managers and the general managers, and everyone came in. And I said, hey, I want everybody to do me a favor. And it was for the sales managers. I said, list your top 5 customers. And everyone listed a law firm. And I remember I went to them, I'm like, I get why you put that. I said, but as the sales manager, I go, that's, if someone picked a law firm, I go, that's this person's top account.
Yeah.
I
learned that from you. Yeah.
It's the person. And if you do that, and if you're willing to, we would put together developmental plans. And when I say I had you guys do it. I'm like, all right, go ahead, put it together. What are you going to work on? Let's not put too much in the plan. And then it was always, what do you need from me? I'm going to be as much part of what you want. You tell me whatever it is you need. Luckily for me, most people didn't ask for too much. And then the other thing that I tried to do with reps was, and I got this from Sharon. Sharon has a teaching background. And there's a lot of things that I did as a sales manager that actually
with a bunch of children.
And she was special ed, buddy. So
that's perfect. So that worked well for me in Rapp.
It did. But she used to say, catch him doing something right and find the win. So that would be something that I would look to do, is if there was, if there's like 6 things negative, but you'd find the win and you'd call someone in.
Yeah.
And just say, hey, I just want to let you know I saw this, or this was good. And, hey, you should be proud of yourself. Or, so if you can do that. And then what I would do, I would also write down, you guys didn't even know this, I had a folder on each of you. And in the folder, what I kept, it was wins and losses. Because there might be things I didn't even talk to you about, or but when we sat down for reviews, and what do we all do? We used to have you guys write your reviews, but it was great because I'm not going to remember everything from 6 months or a year, but I'd go through the wins and I'd be like, hey, you forgot to mention that you did this, and you did this, and you did that. And people are going, what, you remember that? I'm like, yeah, I remember that. But I remember because I had the thing, but I wanted people to also know that I'm seeing some of the positive, because unfortunately as a leader, you can point certain things out and, it might not be taken, the best way. But I would have this conversation a few times, and I had it with a few different reps. There's times when you have to have a real serious conversation. And I would sit someone down and say, hey, I just want to let you know, this is going to be a tough conversation. I said, and you're probably not going to be leaving here feeling super good. I said, but I'm going to be candid and honest with you. And the reason I'm doing that is so you can hopefully make improvements that you need to make, not just for us, but for yourself. And when they would leave, I would, or right before I said, all right, here's what you can do. I said, you can either walk out of this office and go, mother effer, screw you, screw this company, and just, start looking. I said, or I said, and this is what I'm hoping you're going to think. This guy cared enough to be honest with me. He's given me the opportunity. He's, to improve. And I would let people know, like, you're not going to go from A to Z. Let's just get from here to here. I said, and I'm going to work with you. I said, so I'm hoping you're going to think about the second one and not the first one, because I'll work as hard for you as you're willing to work for yourself. And it was nice because I could point to other people on the team who, they weren't doing things right away, but then they made it. Like Tim, for you, it's funny. People might look at your numbers in the beginning, and I remember even gazillion years ago that it was either I think it was three other people had before he took it over. No one ever booked, I think, more than 20,000 in sales. And you got it up to like 60 something. Meanwhile, Rapp and all these other people are doing hundreds. And you're like, but being there the whole more impressive than what some of these other people were doing who took over some other territories.
Mm-hmm.
And it was good to see, and just to see Steve grow everything that went on in his territory when he took it over. I mean, it went from one level to a completely different level, and that was after we grabbed a whole bunch of accounts away from him. And you're like, Captain, what are you doing?
Well, that's when Garner, and that's when Daphne was pissed at Tim, but that's a whole nother story. So Cap, I want to shift a little bit more into frameworks for selling, right? So you have been through the cycle. There's a lot of different frameworks out there, right? Medpic, Medic, spin selling, different approaches and frameworks for sales. If you were, and again, I think, and I'm going to bring this back into the legal world because this is kind of where we're focused on. It's complex, right? There's new technologies coming in, AI is disrupting things. When you look at a sales team today, is there a framework that you're kind of working with them to understand when they go into the market? And is that different for seasoned vets versus guys just coming out in the field? I don't know. Just diving into that.
Yeah, well, I mean, depending upon territories, number of accounts, you could have major account, you could have a geo territory, so yeah, there will be certain things that are going to be different. All the things that you mentioned. I think I just try and take a little bit from everywhere. I mean, there was getting inside your customer's head, which is one that you didn't mention. That was an old time icon book. So it's just trying to come up with a framework. I mean, spin selling is clearly the easiest. It's the easiest for most people to wrap their head around. It's not as complicated. And that's the one, if it's a younger rep, that I'm going to rely on most with a younger rep.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and I think some of the things that you used to do, whether it was through what you had learned, I remember you used to always tell us, you got to make the deposits, emotional deposits, so you can get the withdrawal. So when it's time, when things are bad, you can ask for that withdrawal. And I remember that stuff. So always, being positive. And when I was in front of clients or in front of people, making sure that I acknowledged them, that I was aware, that they became friendly. So when things did go bad, when we messed up a job for Willie, I could go to him and go, hey, man, my bad. Sorry. And, that might have been the 10th one, but we had put so many deposits in that the withdrawal, was accepted. So I remember that from you too, Cappy.
I do love that. That's a good one.
Yeah. I mean, I think for sales, if you want to talk about like for sales reps, I think the best way that they can help themselves is, identify what you need to know. And again, don't do it by yourself, and I'll talk about something in a second, but you need to know your industry. You need to know the products and services you sell. You need to know about your leadership and their style. And I know sometimes for what I do right now, the majority of my selling and my best selling, it's done inside the four walls of my company, more so than outside of my company, into the clients. You need to know your competition. I could probably list about 15, 20 things that every sales rep probably needs to know. And each sales rep should list that down for themselves and then say, do I know this? Because if you know it and you understand that you're gonna have a lot more confidence,
Yeah.
that's certainly going to make it a lot more easy to listen to a customer when they're talking,
Right.
instead of thinking. And then, identify, your skill sets that you need. And then ask yourself and have an honest assessment, or ask your sales leader to honestly assess you at, hey, how would you say I'm at negotiating? How would you say I'm at questioning? How would you say I'm at, putting proposals and things together, even though everybody's now using ChatGPT? How am I at all these different things, whether it's, on the phone, telemarketing, handling objections. And if you're not really strong in a few areas, pick the ones that you think will have the biggest impact.
Hmm.
And then the rest of it comes down to your behaviors and activities. Like, who do I need to be? How do I need to be? And then what activities should I be doing? And when should I be doing that? And if you understand those like 4 components really well,
Yeah.
and if you have lots of opportunities amongst those areas, don't get overwhelmed. Try to identify the 1 or 2 that are going to have the biggest impact in your success, and just work on those. And the great thing about sales is, once you get that down, it's not like you took chemistry this year and then next year you're taking biology and you just forget you're going to constantly be using it. So you're just building on things and building on things. And then eventually you become a monster out there in the best of ways, that you really know what you're doing, or at least I should say, you think you know what you're doing. Because anytime any of us think that we finally reach the point where we've got it down, that's when we're in trouble, because we
Absolutely.
never ever reached that pinnacle and that end goal.
Yeah.
All right, Tim, you got a question for Steve? Because I got a good one. We're almost getting to the end. We want to keep it limited, but
ask away. Ask away.
This was interesting. This was actually when I was at Legal Week. Someone came up and said, "Hey, I watched the sales podcast, the Sales Docket," and I think they said this is a question I think you should ask people. What's something you learned recently you wish you had learned at the beginning of your career? And I think that's a great question. Ooh, it's a tough one, isn't it, Stevie? Sorry.
What have I learned recently?
Do you see the dads? I remember that. When we asked him an awkward question, that was the same. Wow, that was a flashback.
As you get older, Steve, your short-term memory is not nearly as good as your long-term.
It's a tough question.
Yeah, that would have been good if you gave me that as a prep, but to come right up on the spot here.
Yeah, we could always go. You want me to just give you a softball? Like, what's the best sales book you ever read? I mean, would that help
you? yeah, Zig Ziglar, Secrets to Closing the Sale.
There you go.
See?
Perfect. We can pass that one. That's fine. We'll come back to that. I'll let you think on that one. Garner, you want to? Do you want to ask the pivot?
Yes, I mean, we talked about it earlier, Steve. My biggest pivot was probably our walk, right? So, in your career, what was the thing that made you kind of make a turn and pivot, that changed a situation in your life or in your business life, that made you want to move on to what you're doing now? And what was that biggest pivot? What, personal, professional, emotional? What was it for you?
And what's the lesson you would share with the next generation from that pivot?
For where I am now?
Whenever was it coming
Just
Icon or leaving Icon, or whatever?
Any part of your career that you sat there and there was just like one moment that you're like, it changed it for whatever reason?
Yeah, well, I don't know if the people in legal, I don't know if they work the hours we used to work, and I don't know what's going on, as much now, because I'm out for a while. But for me, it was my son's birthday. And let me see, this would have been, he probably would have been about, he was probably about 10.
Okay.
Approximately about 10. And he goes, "Do you want to know what I wished for my birthday?" I'm like, "No, you can't tell me." I go, "Because if you tell me, it's not going to happen." He goes, "But I want to tell you." And I'm like, all right. And he said, I wish you didn't have at the time, I wish you didn't have a BlackBerry.
Wow.
Wow. I think you
And
told me that. Yeah.
yeah, and that cut. Because you know what I did was with the kid, I mean, we work crazy hours. I mean,
Yeah.
I left my house between 5:30 and 6 every day. So I can be in the office by 7.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And we never left the office before 6. I had an hour and a half commute at a minimum home, and it was 7:30. And Sharon would always make sure kids would wait until 7:30 to eat dinner. They'd have a snack, but she was big. We're eating as a family.
Yeah.
And I would be there for every school recital. I'd be there for if I had to leave a little early, and I'd be there for, for baseball and basketball and whatever sports. And went to Sharon, like, well, I was always there. And she's like, you were there, but you weren't present because
Mhm.
you were tied to that blender.
Yeah.
And that was a big thing for me. And kind of made me, one of the things that made me say, okay, you know what? Money is great. But it was what my son said. And that's when, I looked and said, you know what? I need to figure out something different.
No.
And
Wow.
And look, Steve, I think again, generationally now, especially, it's not only the younger generation, it's us also. I mean, we can become self-absorbed in the phone, in the iPhone, and having a conversation, all of a sudden you're automatically looking at your phone and it's not there. And I will tell you that I have some pet peeves, but when I'm talking to someone, if I don't have that focus, and they go down and look at their phone and they text someone while they're talking to me, I'm like, and maybe that's my age, who knows? But that is a piece, like, and this is my lesson to the salespeople who are listening to this: is put the phone in your pocket when you're in a sale. Like, just, it should be the focus that you need on the person in front of you without being distracted. And I think that's a really good lesson for a lot of folks.
you know who gave me that lesson? Russ gave me that lesson because,
Rusty.
yep, because a lot of times folks would come in to the office as, want to speak to your manager, and I'm typing, and I'm gonna go, and and he brought that to my attention. I was like, oh, that's really bad. Like because we just have so many things, and again, if you're the manager, when that person has the interaction with you, that's a moment for them.
Yeah. Correct.
And
Yeah.
there's just two things I just also wanted to make sure that I shared with you that I thought was really big for all of our success, and things that we did. But the first one is, if you're in sales, don't try and figure it all out. Fish off someone else's peer. So like when I first joined Knight Rider, I got the job. I asked Scott Goodson, I said, I want the name of the top 10 sales rep. There were 400 of them at the time. I want the top 10. And I called all of them. I got 5 of them. And I said, what are you doing? What do you think that you're doing that everyone else isn't doing that's allowing you to be in the top, whatever, 1-2% of the company?
I think you taught us that. Honestly, I think that's something, because you know what's crazy is when someone joins my company, or when I joined another company, that is ultimately the first thing that I do is I'm like, who are the top reps? And I call them and I ask them that. I'm like, what are you doing that makes you successful? You know what's crazy is when people have joined the company, they don't call. I mean, being one of the top reps, you would think.
Yeah, but you're an asshole, Rapp. You're an asshole.
No, I'm not. I'm good. I'm good, Timmy G. I like to share. I do.
But you know what?
But
And
it's
most
crazy
sales reps do.
because people don't do that.
No.
Interesting. Next. Sorry. I just had to share that.
And then the other thing is this. When I was in sales, when my sales blew up, it was when I finally started asking for referrals. And if I'm being honest with myself, the reason I never asked for a referral, even though I had so many people tell me you need to ask for referrals, I never felt I earned the right to ask for the referral. I never felt that I did enough. And that's when I got back to more about thinking about the other people and what you can do. So once I started giving more to my customers beyond just the services, it became very easy, and people would be like, yeah, sure. And just remember one thing, when you ask for referrals, I know on the copier side, when I sold this office equipment, I didn't see the sales close until about like 12 to 18 months later. And then and then a few years later, 90% of my business was referrals. I wasn't even cold calling anymore. And, you know, in legal, this is interesting. I remember we would always have to say who else. That was the thing.
Yes,
who else?
Who else
So-
would you recommend?
So we would do the who else can I, you know, because we would end up meeting lawyers and stuff. And most people would be like, you know, like they wouldn't always want to give you names. It's so what I did was I was like, I got to get a name. I got to get names because we were new and didn't know anybody. We didn't have a firm list yet. So I would go when I was meeting a lawyer and I would say, hey, how big was the class that you came in with? Oh, we were 20 people.
I remember this
I said, man, I said 20 people. I'm like, I hear it's kind of hellish when you first start. I go, I guess you guys all kind of got close because of all the stuff you were going through. Oh yeah, we're all really close. We're really close. I'm like, okay. And then I was asked something else about how tight they were. And then I'd go through the rest of the sales call. And then at the end, I'd be like, hey, you know, I'm working as hard as I can. I'm trying to meet as many people. You mentioned you came in with 20 people. You were really close. Can you do me a favor? So it's just like, again, because it's all about questioning, but it's when you ask the question. So sometimes it's a little innocent question up front. And it was like, they tell me that. I'm like, okay, buddy, I'm going to see you in about 20 minutes. And
So
you're
I
gonna give me
gotta
some
ask this
names.
question.
Masterclass,
So
Kaplan. I
Yeah, I
remember
know.
it's like coming back to me.
Right. So when you got the names and you made the calls to the people, how did you make that call, Steve?
What do you mean,
I know how
did?
you made. Well, like,
Oh, go
you
ahead.
would tell how would you wouldn't just say, "Hey, I'm Steve Kaplan."
No,
meet
I
me.
did
How
so
would
and
you?
so. They agreed
Yes.
that they agreed to work with me. I had a great meeting. They're going to work with me, give me their next project. Wanted to
Right.
stop by, introduce myself. Yeah.
Right.
Great.
Just dropping a name for somebody. So there's a little gem right there for everybody on the docket. That's how you do it, you know. So, but yeah,
This was great.
love
Kaplan,
it. Love
I've
it.
had memories flashing back to me right now of our days together. So
Well, I'm surprised Tim didn't bring up one, which I'm going to bring
Well,
up.
so I didn't know you're talking about in your office with me and Ted.
No, that was actually in Ted's office. So I will tell you about that if you're okay. And then I'll tell you my favorite rap thing he ever did.
go for it.
Okay.
Well, I'll start with you, Steve. It was our managing partner's birthday, Conway, and I got to tell you, I learned a ton from Jack. And he was so huge on integrity. Like there was just a lot that I learned, and he was a mentor for me. You know, teaching me the business side, the operation side, and he just did a ton for my career. But it was Jack's birthday, and we were in the conference room. And Jack was always, he'd punch you guys. He would, you know, I got olive oil arms. I was never going to get physical with you guys. And Doler, he agreed to let Doler punch him in the arm for his birthday. And Doler went 1, 2, and from the other side came Steve Rapp with a roundhouse. And Steve yells, 3. He punched Jack so hard. Here's what I want you to do. I know this is going to be horrible, but if you look at the video of Lee Harvey Oswald getting shot and see the face he made, that's exactly the face Jack made. And he crushed him. You literally just crushed him.
I remember that. Because he always punched us, and I was like, I can't punch the managing partner back. But that day, he gave us permission.
You're
right.
absolutely creamed, and he didn't see it coming.
Oh no, I nailed him.
Great.
You punched him in the other arm, and then Doler got him. It was crazy.
It's like a shot. You're right.
So Steve, this is what Tim was referring to. We're in the cell. I don't even know where I am. I'm in probably my office, but I hear screaming, just yelling and crazy yelling. And I get up, and in Ted's office, so Ted, you know, people don't know Ted Anger. He's 6'3", you know?
6'4", yeah, 6'3", 6'4".
6'4". He's a Viking. And Ted and Tim are just screaming at each other. The funny thing is, I don't even remember what they were yelling about. I don't know if you remember.
I know.
But they were at it. And I walk in the room. I'm like, guys, settle down. Guys, settle down. And they just both look at me and like, yeah, shut up. And they just keep going at. I'm like, guys, so I close the door and they're still screaming at each other. And I take my belt, I undo my belt, and I drop my pants. And I'm just standing there in my underwear. And and the two of them are like, yeah. And they both just shut up and they just looked at me in my underwear like they couldn't believe what was going on. And I looked at them both and I said, grown men can't yell at each other when they're in their underwear. I'm like, take off your pants and we're going to do this. And Ted just goes, undoes his belt, drops his pants really quick. And he's sitting down now in his underwear. And Tim's like, I ain't doing it. I'm like, Tim, I said, if I can be in my underwear, I go, I said, I'm alluding to him like, is the myth not true? So take off your pants. And Tim brings his pants down and he just brings him right to his knees.
I'm like, what the fuck? This is crazy. That was,
and it was
awesome.
funny because it was like maybe 5-10 minutes later.
He diffused everything.
We all done. Diffused. We pick up our pants. These guys are walking out like buddies, and all was well.
That's a great way to end the sales doc right there, Kaplan, with everybody's pants down in a room. But I miss the good old days, huh?
Yeah, back then, it was okay. Nowadays, somebody'd be in trouble. So, but
me.
So well, Stevie, I know you're gonna leave. You want to, but that was the one thing I did want to say. When I joined Icon, I remember we had that long hallway and we walked out and we met and sat with everybody. And I remember you, Cap, and I remember Anger, because everyone, nothing against anybody else. I was like, I can compete with everyone else. I think I can do it. But I remember you and Ted, and I'm just like, these guys are good, and I need to learn from those guys. So, kudos.
Can I just share one other thing that I think might be a good idea, especially like with sales management?
Absolutely.
One of the things that we did, if you remember, a lot of the meetings, like because we were all in New York, we would just get together every day, but we would have like a sales best practice. That would always come up because someone would come ask me a question or tell me something like, "Oh, that's a good one." And so, like, if it was Steve, he's like, "Well, hey, this came up, and I wasn't sure I did this," and then the next meeting it was like, "Okay, Steve's now running the meeting."
Yeah.
So, like, if you can get your team to run the meeting and lead the meeting, so they're not just always hearing you, that would be, I think that's big, because then people also feel involved. They feel, that the leader wants to know what their thoughts are, opinion, and quite candidly, more often than not, when things would come up, as a group, you are way smarter than me or Jack or any one person, and things would come up. And we used to remember we would read books.
Yeah.
What we do, we'd read a chapter a week. Someone would lead the discussion, and then we gave a prize on like, okay, who did the best leading? And I remember like Murphy was like really good at that. He would do different things, get really creative, and everybody would. And then the next person upped their game, and it became almost like a little bit of a competition.
Yeah.
But it was the team. It was the team leading itself. Is kind of what I'm saying.
Yeah. You always find ways. You always find ways not to do your job, and that's what we loved about you. Well, Stevie Kaplan, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on the Sales Docket.
Man.
You are a huge impact for both of us, and I think we've mentioned it in the past, but we appreciate it. We thank you, and we're signing off. Really appreciate you, buddy.
I don't get residual checks from you. I noticed that, but okay.
Yeah, not yet. Working on that, buddy. All right, guys. I'm going to stop recording, and then we'll have a little. Hold on one second. Okay.